Yes, it's true. I quit my job. For this. For YouTube woodworking. So how did I reach this point? So I've spent the last 15 years in the white-collar world. My most recent job, the one I just quit from about 30 days ago, made the news last year.
I want to briefly speak about what's happening in Silicon Valley Bank.
It's the largest bank failure since the financial crisis of 2008.
A rough week for the banking industry.
The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
Let's take the case of Silicon Valley Bank. It was just plain, straight, idiot management underneath an incompetent board.
Now I know what you're thinking, and no, I am not the one that caused the collapse of the bank. I may have been slightly culpable, but I'm going to plead ignorance on this one. Me and my coworkers were watching the news that morning saying the bank had been seized by the FDIC. What the hell does that mean? We just basically kept on working until our director got us all on a Zoom call. It's just like, hey, why don't you guys go ahead and take the day off? Which was great news for me because it was actually my birthday that day, and I was kind of falling behind on a couple projects, and this was the perfect excuse not to finish those. Now eventually the bank did get acquired and I was able to keep my job. But this event had some kind of inception-like effect on me and really got me thinking about my career. So obviously I was doing this to make the bills and it was more than enough money to live comfortably. But what was really eating away at me was corporate America. So for those of you who are not acquainted with this concept, I'll do my best to describe it. Imagine sitting at your desk all day on endless Zoom calls where nothing really gets accomplished or progressed, and profuse use of phrases like low-hanging fruit, let's unlock our synergy, or let's circle back and get a line on this.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah.
And truthfully, the worst part of it was working long hours, neglecting your family, trying to get together an analysis that you later find out was never even looked at. I was starting to feel like prolonged exposure of this was chipping away at my soul. Okay, it's a little dramatic, but you get the idea. But to preserve my sanity, I got interested in woodworking. And so this is my woodworking journey. I got started like a lot of others out there really with just some small DIY projects and not so much woodworking. So things like painting accent walls, changing out fixtures, adding LED strips. But in 2018, I decided to put my big boy pants on and do a real project, and this was building out my closet. At the time, I had to borrow all my tools from a friend and I had no idea what I was doing. But I always had YouTube as a great resource as well as time. And what I mean by that is, since I was doing a build in my spare time, I spent months making mistakes, wasting wood and redoing stuff. But along the way, I was having a great time actually working on something tangible where I could see the physical progress each day and week. It was just a great feeling being able to do all my own design and learning something new that was totally out of my comfort zone. Now obviously this being one of my first projects, there was a lot of sloppiness in how I did it, but back then I really didn't care. All I knew is this was something I wasn't terrible at, and I knew I could get better if I put more time into it, and I could really get into it. After I finished the closet after maybe 6 months, I don't know, it took forever, but I was definitely hooked at this point, and the next space I wanted to work on was a home studio. At the time, I was playing a lot of guitar and doing some recording, and I really wanted a space that would not only look cool, but function as a studio space with decent acoustics. And I look back at this project a lot because it really challenged me to think about the space as a whole and working out order of operations when constructing built-ins, but it came out great, and unbeknownst to me at the time, after COVID, this would be my Zoom background for years, and having people constantly think that my house was an underground German disco. I did also dabble in other DIY things like tile and flooring, but far and away working with wood was my preference, so I always try to find projects that would involve some kind of woodworking. Over the next couple of years, I continued to be a weekend warrior and take on as many projects as I could with varying scales. And I noticed that I always learned something new with each project, and also that this was an insanely frustrating hobby. I mean, I got more upset at a project looking like crap than I ever did at my day job, which was an early indicator for me that I really did care about this stuff. It just drove me to work even harder. One thing that has always been clear to me anyway is that woodworking truly is a difficult skill to master, and so far I haven't found any shortcuts to getting better, just gotta put in more time. One of the problems I was having is that my day job was getting more and more demanding as I negotiated the corporate ladder, and the longer the breaks I took between projects, the rustier I got at the craft. I would sometimes go 3 to 4 months without touching a tool, and when I got started on the next one, it always took a lot more time to get back into the swing of things. But I stuck with it, and some of my favorite work came when I set out to transform my small but cozy outdoor space. My small yard really started just as an empty lot with dirt, but I knew it could be a nice spot with some plants and shade. So I built some raised planter beds and a pergola just out of some treated lumber. And what's nice about these outdoor projects is the wood is going to shift and get beat up by the elements anyway, so I didn't have to do a ton of sanding and finish work. Plus the plants were really going to be the star of the show, so I just needed to build the right boxes to hold them. I also put in some artificial turf, and if you are wondering whether you should do it yourself or pay somebody to do it, think about how much your back health is worth to you, and if it's worth anything at all, just go ahead and pay somebody to do it. Building out this space, though, was a big step for me in terms of building different kinds of structures, and really considering the types of joints and construction methods to bear all this weight. Plus, it was awesome just to design whatever I wanted, because planter boxes, you can really do whatever. And of course, while I was working back there, some dude promptly broke my back gate with a hammer and stole a bunch of my tools. But alas, that's Albuquerque for you. While I worked my way through this yard, I really grew in confidence, and at this point I had built a pretty wide variety of woodworking projects. So in the summer of 2021, I decided to take on my most daunting task, and also attempted to film it. Hi everybody. Today I'm going to walk you through my plans for getting this patio covered. So yeah, now the fun part starts. This rare archival footage shot on my cell phone represents my roots on YouTube. I did originally intend on this being my first YouTube video, but I was kind of half-assing the footage and frequency of filming, and ultimately I didn't feel there was enough for a full, proper video. But I really wish it had been, because this remains to this day my best project I've ever done. And it had everything. I mean, we're talking rough framing, roofing, flashings, fascia boards, windows, skylights, electrical, and so on. This was another project that took months, but at this point, as a completely one-man job, I don't think I could have done it much faster if I were to do it today. And I learned so much from a project like this because it was a huge departure from my smaller built-ins. Really getting into true home building type stuff, and without a doubt the most challenging part for me were the skylights, because making sure that these homemade skylights made out of plexiglass were properly waterproofed was no small task. But again, having the luxury to really take my time with this and learn on my own schedule really helped me to retain a lot of the techniques that I needed to complete this project. I didn't have to force myself to stay focused on the task because the building in and of itself was already so challenging and interesting that the build definitely pushed me to my limits as far as what I thought I was capable of building. And I'll reiterate again just how rewarding it felt to go through all the struggles and making mistakes, correcting those, and seeing something come together in the end. After this build, I really decided to be more diligent, and I filmed my first YouTube video, which was my staircase makeover, and I released that in late 2022, and I've been filming all my major projects since then. So that leads us to today and my decision to quit my job for YouTube. As of now, I'm at 1,800 subscribers, which I'm very grateful for. And now I'm just going to be focused on creating more content, having more frequent videos, hopefully doing more interesting builds that'll inspire others for their projects. And most of all, I'm really hoping that people will just enjoy the videos and get some entertainment value out of them. Along with making videos on my builds, I'm also going to take the data analyst approach to this. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to be providing all the costs and time commitment for all my projects, but I'm also going to be providing insights on my YouTube journey. So I'll be reviewing all the data and the analytics. So any insights that I see, things that are working, things that aren't working, I'll be sure to share on this channel. I'm thinking that'll be kind of a quarterly thing, but I'll be as transparent as possible. And for starters, I've been monetized on this channel for about 5 months, I want to say, and I've made a total of about $150, which is why a lot of my friends and family think I'm crazy for trying this. And look, I don't expect to be making what I was making in the financial industry, but it'd be amazing if I can make a livable wage from YouTube doing woodworking projects. And hey, at the end of 12 months, if it's not going well, I'll probably sell my soul and go back to the finance industry. But I'm really hoping not to do that, so I'm hoping that you'll join me on this journey. Please give me feedback, positive or negative. I'm still learning here. And if you're in the same boat as me, then follow along, see how it goes. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.